I'm joined now by Professor Hagai Levine, the head of the medical team for the Hostages and Missing Families Forum. Professor, thanks so much for being with me. So much focus has been on the physical condition of the hostages. Are they drinking enough water? Is it clean water? Do they have enough to eat? Have they even seen the sun in 3 months? Tell me more about the mental state. Why is considering the mental anguish also very important now?
Well, that's because of multiple reasons. First, they are under psychological terror. We've seen Yarden Bibas, the father of Kfir and Ariel, who is being told that they were killed. We don't know what is the truth. And we've seen in the clip released by the Hamas the implications on him. We know from direct evidence that he took it very badly. And it's also true for other hostages. I spoke with released hostages that told us that the Hamas told them that Israel is now being destroyed, attacked from all over. And, they don't have a sign of life. Not only we don't get from them, but they don't have a contact with the outer world. Some of them do hear some news accidentally, but many of them don't. So, being isolated and being under psychological terror, some of them with previous mental conditions not being treated, and with time passes, it's become worse and worse. We know from evidence that some of them are even, in a state of apathy. They don't want to eat, they don't want to live, and that's very, very dangerous. As the fact that they were not visited by the Red Cross so far, and it goes together with the physical status, because that's not helpful, because they have diseases that are not treated, they have injuries that are not treated, they are at risk for infections, and they have pain and suffering, and as you said, don't eat well, don't drink well. So all of it together, the mental status is very important. And I must say that even for the survivors that were released and now in Israel, the mental issue is still a big deal, and some of them recover quickly and some of them don't.
Professor, I want to ask your analysis here on a rather developing story right now here that we're learning about at I-24 News. We understand that there are a number of soldiers who are hospitalized with wounds, or they have open wounds, and there have been various bacterial or fungal infections because of the conditions on the battlefield. Some of these fungal and bacterial infections reportedly are quite serious. They're resistant to treatment, and there are reports that this may even have led to a soldier's death. Specifically, the wound were not life-threatening, but the impact of infection and the condition of the infection led to a fatality. Can you touch on that and the growing concern, perhaps, of these kinds of infections in the days to come?
So I'm with the families and the hostages. I could not refer directly to the report about the fungal infection and other penetrating infections among the soldiers. But I can say that we know, as a public health physician, we well know that injuries and a dirty injury, when you are exposed to dirt, etc., there is a risk of infections from bacteria and of other, like fungal infections, etc. And we know that it's sometimes very hard to treat. I can tell you that we know from the hostages that some of them had severe injuries that were not well treated, that they got infections and dangerous infections in their bones that needs a very long treatment that could, the infection could risk their life. So this issue of dirty injuries and infections is a serious threat both to the soldiers, obviously to the Palestinians that are wounded, and to the hostages that are wounded. And we are very worried because the hostages obviously do not get the treatment that the soldiers can get in Israeli hospitals. So then the infections could be life-threatening, and that's another concern that we have. I just want to say that there is another issue, which is infectious diseases in general. We know both for the soldiers, the Palestinians, and the hostages that there are, salmonella and other infectious diseases now in Gaza. And then again, the hostages are not well treated. It threatens their life. And I must say, as a public health physician, as opposed to some, journalists claiming that it's good that there will be epidemic in Gaza, I'm confident that epidemics in Gaza are bad for everyone. It's bad for the Palestinians, it's bad for the soldiers, and it's obviously bad for the hostages. So I think that it's all interest, and it's Israeli interest that there will not be epidemics in Gaza.
Professor Levine, thank you so much for being with us on I-24 News. Great to have you.
Thank you.